Good evening and welcome to the February 25th, 2025 meeting of the East Long Meadow Town Council. I'll call the meeting to order and ask that we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I would ask that silence to reflect on all of the events going on. Thank you. In accordance with Mass General Law, this meeting is being recorded by LCAT. If there's anyone else in the audience, if you could identify yourself. Okay, seeing none, public comments. We had Nicholas Torsha signed up. I don't know.
He's running a little bit behind, so he'll hopefully be here.
How do you know that?
Intel. Happen to have again.
Is there anyone else that would like to make a public comment? And if it's the council's pleasure, we'll move on and we could always come back to public comments if it arrives later.
Yep, sure.
Hey, council comments. Does any councilor have a comment?
Just through the chair, just very briefly, the DPW, a commendable job on the roads. Storm. You look at all these other pictures from around cities and towns with the problems that they were having. They're pretty free and clear here in town. So great job by the DPW.
Great. I'll pass that along. Thank you.
Yeah, especially that was such a tough storm. Deal with freezing rain and ice and
Possible, yeah.
Good thing there's no school.
Well, there wouldn't have.
Any other council comments? Okay, seeing none, town manager's report. Tom?
Hi, good evening. A little brief this evening. So attached, as per usual, we got a couple of weeks of reports on the high school. We've gotten so far to this point that there's a topping off ceremony tomorrow, which is all right. I like it. I like the enthusiasm. Thank you. I don't get a whole lot of that in the manager's report. So that's sort of a ceremonial, the last beam being placed on the structure. So it's very exciting. Obviously, the project's come a long way in a short period of time, but every milestone just as exciting as the first. So the Center Downtown District Steering Committee met for a final time last Wednesday to close out the Centertown District planning process, culminating in the submission of a draft bylaw from PVPC. So after nearly a year of conversation and public interaction, we're almost there on sort of a creation of the bylaw for the district, which thanks again to the public and everybody for all of their input throughout the process. I want to thank Rebecca for guiding us through the process, the steering committee for volunteering their time to inform and educate the public on a very comprehensive subject. Our friends at PVPC for listening to the community and catering to all our needs. And a big thanks again to the people of East Long Meadow for showing up in impressive numbers. I guess when they were so excited that we had 100 people at the first one, we were kind of proud that they were so surprised at our turnout. So thanks to everybody for the entire process, really. I recently met with members of American Legion Post 293 and the Historical Commission as we're preparing for the 250th anniversary of the American Revolution. The celebration begins this year, actually, with a ceremony at Town Hall to commemorate the shot heard around the world from April 19th, 1775, which was sort of the kickoff to the whole revolution. So we're still working on the details. I'll obviously keep everybody updated. It'll be similar to our Veterans Day ceremony out in front of Town Hall. They'll march from the Legion and wreaths and the whole bit. There's been quite a bit of work. I know some of you have been on the emails. Ken Hancock, who's one of our historical commissioners, has done an amazing amount of research on the veterans of East Long Meadow and even before we were East Long Meadow. So we'll have quite a bit of historical information. But I'll keep you updated on the details there. So upcoming events, we've got the topping off ceremony tomorrow at noon. at the high school, and I have coffee with the town manager next Wednesday, March 5th at 10:30 at the COA. And if there's any questions, I'll answer them, but that's all I got for today.
Great. Thank you, Tom.
Yep.
Any questions?
Through the chair.
Sure.
So Tom, I'm just politely asking at the next meeting in March or whatever, it's been a while since we've heard from multiple different departments, what's been happening, like with the rec department, how the winter season's going, whether it be IT and that. Is there any way we can get a little bit longer manager's report that just highlights each department?
Sure.
It's been quite a while, so
Okay.
thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, seeing none. Communications, correspondence, and announcements. Tonight we have the recognition of our Fire Chief Paul Morissette on his retirement. Woo! So with that, presented to Paul J. Morissette in recognition and appreciation of 34 years of dedicated service, devotion, and commitment, East Long Meadow and the East Long Meadow Fire Department. Best wishes for your retirement from the East Long Meadow Town Council. It's your retirement date, March 7th, 2025.
Photo?
Yeah, let's pose.
Kind of like what Chris had. Yeah. Barely, you're in this one.
I hired him. I really did hire you.
I think you hired me. Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you. We hear about the budget before you go. Just tell me.
It's a Swiss watch.
It's the most important thing of our job. First, we were just having that conversation.
Thank you again for all of his years of service. Many of us, of course, have worked with him or known him for quite some time, and it's definitely been an incredible journey.
Yep.
Okay. Let's see, what time is it? It is 6:09, so we are too early for our 6:15 hearing. So I would entertain a motion to move out of order to financial matters.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're up to financial matters. Our first topic is discussion with the school committee regarding the FY26 budget. Good evening.
Hello. Hard act to follow with the chief. Congrats, chief, on your retirement.
Do you need a moment to?
Yeah, if you don't mind, we'll open the meeting, call the meeting of the school committee of February 26th. Open the meeting at 6:10. Present tonight, Sarah Trulio, William Struther, and our assistant superintendent for business, Pam Blair, and superintendent Gordon Smith. Thompson. Thank you.
Thank you much. So as a continuation, a little over a month ago, we had the first joint meeting between some school officials and the town council. But this is part two. Now that the committee's had an opportunity to host the meeting and come before us again, so I'll open it up if you guys want to start with any comments. And
Sure, and we're thankful that you allowed us to come back again and have a full meeting, and we know more now, so that's helpful for us. And certainly, this is one of the most challenging budget years for the school department so far, and we're happy to continue the discussion with all of you. We've had some bigger meetings, some smaller meetings, and we're very grateful for how well the process has gone so far.
Thanks, Coffee. The chair.
Sure.
Could we hear from the town manager as far as the condition of the town and what we're looking at for finances? I know the school budget's a huge part of it.
Absolutely.
But without knowing from the town where we stand with money, it's difficult going forwards,
Okay.
if that's okay.
Yeah.
Not that I'm putting you on the spot, but.
No.
Now,
No, we had this nice sheet that I sent you guys, and I actually shared it with Gordon and Pam and the school committee as well. So yeah, thank you. This is our sort of financial position as we sit here. Well, I guess it would have been 11 days ago when it was authored, but just kind of get a feel for where we stand here. So our fiscal year 24 certified free cash was 10,971,177, which through a series of votes had moved some money around a couple months ago, I want to say. So that available balance is down closer to our target of 5% at 8%, which is like $5.695 million. We used 1.2 to reduce the long-term borrowing for the purchase of 382 North Main. 3.5 transferred into the general and capital stabilization, compensated absences, and OPEB to try to hit those target numbers or get closer. And then 370,000 for the Maple Shade roof feasibility study. Our excess levy capacity grew a little bit from FY24 to FY25, now sits at 1.6 million. We had 551,000 in new growth. We estimate around 500,000 typically when we are at this phase of the budget. Values increased 5.8%, and tax rate was reduced 6 cents in spite of an estimated 36 cents of high school debt. That was before this last borrowing. That number will inevitably go up this year. So we've managed to keep the excess levy capacity consistent with the prior year, sort of due to a targeted effort, all of us with our fiscal responsibilities and by management, reducing budgets where appropriate. And then obviously a big one this last time was the health insurance, which had sort of been historically over budgeted. It started right around COVID and we never brought it back down to the actual level of spending for health insurance. So that's going to come down, and obviously we'll see that in our free cash turn back at the end of the year. There won't be another $1 million or so coming back. So sort of what we're looking at this point in the budget, Prop 2.5 allows us to raise the budget around 1.3 million. And then estimated increases for growth, local receipts, and state aid, which we usually anticipate 2%, came in at 1.4%. And that was broken into, I think, 1.1% for school for education, Chapter 70, and then offset receipts for school choice. Then the unrestricted went up about 5%, but there was a total of only a 1.4% increase. And again, this is the first iteration of the governor's budget. So these numbers are going to move probably 4 times before we on May 20, whatever. So we've got our initial numbers for health insurance and retirement, which are our largest expenditures. And we sort of look to them as the biggest increases or some of the biggest increases from year to year. And those are looking at 1.3 million or so between the two of them. So we're really only left with $1 million for everything in increases. That's all of the departments without cutting into that excess levy. So which again, we've been trying to maintain that excess levy number, which again is sort of another reserve of money we can tax the community that we haven't in previous years. Our bond rating, again, because of our sort of fiscal health, stayed AA+. we borrowed 83% of the total required expenditures for the high school so far. So there's still one more sort of larger purchase. And as we were going through this process last year, that bond rating can and sometimes depends on your reserves and the activity in those reserves from year to year. Mainly, if your reserves go down a significant amount, all of a sudden, maybe you're not as attractive to lend money to. The budget performance, I guess I will say, because of all that, we ended up saving that $25 million on the first round of borrowing for the high school. So obviously, keeping our reserves and our fiscal management where it is has served us well in the long term, which is sort of the point of the whole thing. Your reserves kind of set you up. It's, for lack of a better term, your savings account for sort of how you're looking down the road. The budget performance is for FY25 is good. Snow and ice, currently 124,000 in deficit, which we see every year. Town expenditures are in line with the budget. Revenues are in line with the budget. We've seen some increase and struggles with special education costs, which will no doubt continue for whenever things change somehow. And our investment income's already over $1 million due to investment for the high school, the natatorium bands, and bond funding. Last year, we were able to complete over $9 million in capital improvement plan projects. $1.85 million was funded through a combination of the general fund budget, free cash, ambulance fund, and our remaining ARPA funds. 1.3 was bonded in the general fund. That was for the second part of where's the modulars at Mountain View?
Thank you.
2.8 funded through a combination of bonding and retained earnings from enterprise and the ambulance funds. 50 through a CPC grant, and another $3 million funded through other grants. So, a lot of work done last year with our funding, almost $9 million worth of projects. I think anybody that's been to the capital planning meetings, it's a little bit of a more somber of a tone as we're giving them the number in line with our policy, which is more like 1.6 million. But when you add in all the other work we do with capital, with grants and the enterprise funds and all that, we were up over $9 million last year. So that was great. Our current reserve balances, reserve fund for extraordinary expenditures, that's the one that's budgeted for FY25. That was budgeted at 110,000. We're at 67,000, which is remarkably better than last year. We had quite a few expenditures outside of what we were planning on. OPEB, 13.6 million. That's 23% of our target. We had seen a stat yesterday per capita. East Long Meadow is number 3 in the Commonwealth for OPEB investment. It's pretty good. The stabilization fund target was 8%. Again, that transfer got us right to 8% at just under 6 million. The capital stabilization fund has no target. We'll be talking about that later. That has $1 million in it. And the compensated absence fund has 676, almost 677,000, and that is 100% of our liability. So retained earnings, we target at 20%. Water fund has 900,000 available. That's 24% of the budget. Sewer is at 641,000. That's 23% of the budget. The stormwater fund is at 331,000. That's 70% of the budget. And LCAT is at just under 500,000, and that's 235% of their budget. Don says you're welcome, Jamie. And our across open space, historic, affordable housing, and undesignated, the CPC fund balance is $2.38 million, which is a good chunk of money. We also have a bunch of money coming back from projects that somewhere around 300,000 from Heritage Park, and various other projects that have come in under budget or whatever. So, obviously you can see that, we are in, excellent shape financially from a reserve standpoint, which has helped us out with our borrowing and bond rating and all that stuff that we need to move forward here. The issue we're dealing with now is the operating budget. And, we're going to have some challenges getting to a number for that April 1st submittal. Again, without cutting into the levy, $1 million across school, DPW, police, fire, it's going to be a challenge. I guess we'll have to get creative, to say the least, but I think we're also going to have to probably cut some of the budget that has been submitted at level 1. I don't know to what extent yet. We haven't had those meetings with the department heads. Obviously, we've had a few meetings with school at this point. And again, I echo that. I appreciate all the communication that has happened up to this point, probably certainly more than we did last year, which I really appreciate. And it works. It's an easier process when we're all sort of talking as much as we can about the inevitability of what we're going to have to do to get to April 1 and then May, whatever. So that's the gist of it. Again, it's still February. We have a lot to sort of hammer out internally. We have a lot of information that will undoubtedly be revised from the state. And we got some work to do in the coming months, but that's where we're standing right now. I'll just open up to you guys if anybody has any specific questions. And Kim apologizes. She had a vacation already set for this week, and since we usually have this meeting in February, we didn't think this was going to be an issue, or in January, but so that's what we got. I'll do my best. We got Pam, so we're all set.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Yep.
So yeah, before we jump into the excess levy capacity.
Yep.
So I know we usually leave, 10% or something?
Right. Some
levy capacity, and I'm assuming that's in case state doesn't come in with enough, at least then we still have some.
Right. We try to leave that buffer like you would leave any other reserve fund, so that if some extraordinary thing happened between now and May 28th, there's still enough money that we're allowed to add. Right. And that's our excess levy. So yes, that it's sort of important because that's things that we can't control, right? We can control our budget, but if something happens on the state level and we have to adjust, we need that capacity to adjust to things that we don't have any control of.
Okay. If we need to, though, we could take a little bit or whatever of it.
Yeah. So
you still want to leave a little buffer.
Yes. I think maybe 3 fiscals ago, we were at 2.5 million. So yeah, within a few years, we've used $1 million of that to handle the operating budget. And I think that's sort of our trend that we're noticing here is, again, that 2.5 and the local receipts, and that curve is not as big as our budget increase curve. And they're looking to intersect unless we interject however we can, whether it's the budget side or the expense side or the revenue side. And there's a lot of options that we have, and there are a lot of things that we can do. We just have to put our heads together and decide what's the right thing to do. And that's sort of where we're at. Yeah.
Great. The floor is yours.
So we have come a long way since the beginning of the budget process. As I alluded to originally, this is one of the most challenging budget seasons for us, which is interesting with our financial picture of the town side, or the town reserve so good. So we're hopeful that we can work in conjunction with the council, with town manager, to figure out a path forward on how we might fund this budget. We've made significant cuts already. And I think we'll have Pam, if you want to go through the sheet that we've handed out. And we're here to work, as the town manager alluded, collectively together. So.
So the last time we were here, we didn't know our number, right? Never want to tell my number until I really know the number. But what we did know is we were having some challenges in this current year, which are going to roll over into next year and perhaps even the following year. What did we identify? We are using all of our funding sources for special education. And that includes the $1 million rollover for circuit breaker, as well as the 1.6 million in revenue this year, which means we're not going to have the $1 million to roll over next year. So that's significant. The other thing was, thank goodness that we had school choice revenue that had accumulated a bit because we needed to go into there just under $500,000. So between the 1 million and the $500,000 for school choice, you see where I'm going with that? So we already know that in FY26, we're going to need to increase our special ed operating budget by the $1.5 million. That's in addition to the contractual obligations. We talked at that meeting, just as a gentle reminder, I think the town is probably very similar to the school department with 83% of our budget is on the salary side. So it's pretty significant, the contractual obligations. So where are we at now? We know our number. I feel very confident with it. I wish it were a smaller number, but it's not. Level services for the school department would be approximately $3 million, which is, we put into the chart here because I wanted you to kind of just get a visual. I love visuals. To plug in, like, what does that mean for the school department budget? And what does that mean for the Chapter 70 that's coming in? So, with a $3 million increase, we typically, over the last 3 years, have asked for a 3.9% increase. Obviously, an 8.57% increase is not a reasonable budget. So the school committee recognized that right away, as did Gordon and I, bringing this wonderful news. So we've had many, many meetings behind the scenes on what can we do to reduce this level services budget. We still want it to be clear, the level services budget for the school department really is $3 million, but we know that the town cannot afford that. So we've already looked at some items on what can we do to bring this down. So the best person to probably talk about that is Mr. Smith, if you don't mind, Gordon, to talk about the.
So if you look at the middle portion of the chart, the one pager, the first area that we looked at was, and I think Mr. Christensen mentioned this, is we tried to actually free up revenue, not look to reductions first, which unfortunately is the bottom part of the middle portion of the page here. And so we had utilized a certain amount of school choice money in this year's budget to handle some special education increases. Just to give you an idea, looking at transportation alone, next year it's projected to increase about 22.3%. That's not all special education, but a lot of it's driven by special education. At a district tuition, 1%. Some of that's what we know we have to budget for in terms of being prepared for next year. But just to give you, so the drivers of that 8.57% really are special education, transportation, and then contractual obligation. And I don't think East Long Meadow is unique in these challenges. I think districts around us are going through the same thing, and certainly districts in the eastern end of the state, having sat in a few different meetings on transportation specifically, because that was something that was supposed to be reimbursed within circuit breaker, and they were only able to reimburse at 44%. So this is a struggle that's going on throughout the Commonwealth. Anyway, back to what we were looking at in terms of freeing up revenue for FY26. We know that we will have a rollover in school choice because we allowed that to accumulate over the last 4 or 5 years. Thank God. And so we're injecting $350,000 of that rollover into next year's budget. Then we have a 5-year curriculum renewal cycle. Departments are focused on that renewal cycle. And throughout that process, when they get to that fourth year, they're in what we call the purchasing year. So they're identifying either new curricular materials or curricular materials that will supplement what they're using. And we have usually either 2 large departments in that cycle or possibly 3 departments with 2 of them being a little bit smaller. And 80,000, you probably wouldn't be surprised given the numbers that are on this page, doesn't go that far anymore. However, next year, we're going to freeze that. And so the 80,000 would be put into other operational accounts. Our teachers have been fantastic as we take on this challenge, and they're collaborating with us. And so we yesterday were able to approve 2 memoranda of understanding, where one of which freezes for 1 year contractual professional development money that they have the ability most years to present an idea, workshop, or take a course and get reimbursed up to $650. Next year, they agreed to freeze that. So that frees up about $126,500 for next year. Our counselors do some exceptional work with our administrators 5 years before this, 5 years, 5 days.
Good planning.
Work way more than 5 years. And, 5 days before the school year and 5 days after the school year, which has been somewhat consistent across contracts, you'll see. However, in times like these, you often will also see that's an area where, unfortunately, you may have to go to reduce. And so we've looked to reduce that in half. And so that's 5. And so they can divide that up, whether it's 3 at the beginning, 2 at the end, or vice versa. And so they've been great in terms of collaborating with us. The school committee yesterday at their meeting looked at how do we possibly expand school choice and where, because we've always looked at it very much in a targeted way where we're looking at what classes specifically are least enrolled. When I say classes, I mean in grade levels. So if that's 2nd grade, possibly you look there. If that's 3rd, if that's 4th, this past year, I think it was 4th and 5th where we opened up slots. And we haven't opened up an incredible amount of slots because we're never looking to overtax class size, current supplies, anything else that may be involved when you bring on new students. What we haven't done since the first year is we haven't taken upper grade levels. We haven't taken at the 9th grade levels specifically. And last year we didn't take at the 6th grade level, but those are 2 grade levels that are often in demand. And we get most of our calls and inquiries about school choice, 6th grade, 9th grade. So the school committee yesterday, after some discussion and look at all this, they agreed to expand for next year 10 slots at the 9th grade level and 10 slots at the 6th grade level, which will bring in an additional $100,000 into the school choice revolving account. Then we will have some leftover or rollover from this year, knock on wood, in school choice. And so we also looked at using some of that without exhausting, as Mr. Christensen talked about, the reserves. That would be our one area of reserve. And so we're not looking to take it to 0 if possible. And then finally, the athletic fee, which has been, I would compliment the school committee on the ability over probably more than 23 years, but I at least could take it back to 23 years. It's been consistent at $149 for every sport. A lot of towns around us or throughout the Commonwealth will tier their athletic fees. And so a sport like skiing or a sport like hockey may have a significant higher user fee than a sport like cross country. Our user fee has been $149 for all sports each season and has been consistent for at least 23 years. We're increasing that by $50, but stay under the $200 mark. So it's $199, and that would increase revenue of about $30,000. So all of that accumulates to $822,000 on the revenue side, which is significant, and certainly does do some things, not only put a certain amount of burden on families, but also stops curriculum and professional development for a year at least. Then, unfortunately, we know that that's probably not where we're going to have to stop in terms of looking at our budget request. So we do have 3 retirements that, after working with the leadership team and then discussing it with school committee, we do feel a retirement at the high school, a retirement at Mountain View, and a retirement at Meadowbrook could go unfilled. It's not ideal, but those are areas or retirements that we feel we could not replace. Then we also looked at, I'll just term other right now, since we're in a public meeting, some other positions, one at the high school, one at Birchland, and one at Maple Shade. And each of those respectively would create $243,303 in revenue on the first part, and then $224,966 on the second part. Overall, bringing the request down by $1.29 million. And so that would be a reduction of 6 total positions so far. Really hoping to go to the creative collaborative ideas Mr. Christensen's talking about. It's 6 positions has an impact. The top part, although creating revenue, still will have an impact.
So as Mr. Smith alluded to, the original level services would have been 3.085. Reduced our request to 1.794, which includes all of those reductions. Numbers 1 through 5, just in full transparency, will not be available next year, we hope. We're hoping to get back on track with a lot of those things. And so there is some risk of a financial cliff next year as well. So just I want us all to be prepared on that. As the town manager spoke of, with a million available townwide, if we were to assume $500,000 for the schools, or 600,000 or 400,000, whatever, but if we say $500,000, we're still 1.2 million short. And so we look to be collaborative in that regard. We have other options to look for, but I would ask that the council, in your future actions tonight, consider, taxing and appropriating versus taxing and saving. This is the school's department's rainy day. We have arrived. So here we are. But we will get through it, and we have some ideas, and so far there is some impact already. Next year will certainly be felt. We're hoping to minimize any future impact, but we're here to work together, and that's we're one town, and I realize that the town side has its own financial challenges as well. So whatever we can do to keep as many positions really is what we're trying to do at this point, and to keep education #1 in Massachusetts and in the country. So whatever we can do. Thank you.
Just a question, just to make sure I had the numbers right. So the original and the green line on the chart, the original is 3.085. But then when you take out the blue number, 1.90 is 0.79.
That's correct.
That's correct. Yes. And so the 3.085 was level services in terms of staffing, but wasn't level services necessarily in the other portion of it, more level funding, some variances. So, but yeah, with these reductions, then now the request 1.794.
So the school committee voted last night for us to submit that level 1 budget at that blue amount. So I'll be working on that tomorrow in Munis, and we'll work with Gordon and Kim and Tom and get you those numbers.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate all the hard work that you guys have put into that. I mean, certainly that's It's not easy to go through all of those well over 10 things that you've put together there, but it's no number is palatable, of course, but that's definitely a lot easier to work with than the original request. So I appreciate that a lot.
Totally. And it's been very collaborative. Appreciate the process with the council president and the town manager. And we will, we'll get through this. And we're hoping everybody comes for chicken parm tomorrow. Nothing else. Kathy, you coming?
I am.
Nine.
Anyone have any other comments, thoughts, questions?
What is curriculum renewal? Maybe that's a foolish question.
No, not a foolish question at all. So
That would-
basically, what we always want to make sure we're doing is first and foremost, that you're aligning yourself to state standards and frameworks. And those get revised themselves. They're on a cycle as well. But also you want to make sure that you're staying up to date with current research. And so recently, and this was actually coming out of COVID, DESE had a lot of grants that we were able to utilize to bring in a new literacy program in the elementary schools and to also bring in a new math program. That's now been in existence for 3 years, but we can't always rely that DESE is going to come through with grants. As you know, after COVID, there were a number of grants that came through, but curricular grants were one of the grant sources or resources that were provided. But we, with the school committee's wisdom in terms of forward planning, had put together in the operational budget about $80,000 to allow content areas to go through that cycle and make sure that they're researching, look at their materials. They have a year to do that, then to start to research what would they do if they had a chance to purchase, what programs are out there, what's cutting edge, so to speak. DESE's come a long way. Sorry, I keep saying DESE. Department of Elementary and Secondary Education has come a long way in providing a lot of research and ways of assessing curricular materials. So they want to make sure that they want to partner with districts where possible to make sure that high quality curriculum materials are being put in place.
So Jonathan, it's a line item in the operating budget that I've zeroed out for next year.
Through the chair.
Sure.
Just curious, on the bottom, required local contribution. Does the local contribution include, is it just
That's the minimum.
towards the school? Exactly. But does that include stuff like our DPW maintaining?
No, that's on the end of year report and it's more.
It's not
Budget.
net spending, it's, yeah, so that would be additional on top, whatever it costs us to run the schools and all.
Sure.
Okay.
And that comes through on the end of year report. Yeah. Yeah.
That's always the one that's through.
Yeah.
This is going to be a difficult trying year, and I'm sure going forwards, we're probably going to have a few. We're definitely going to have to get creative. Let me rephrase that. You're going to have to get creative.
Well, we're hoping because these conversations are happening much earlier than they have in the past, that we will be able to put our heads together and come up with some, solutions to this very challenging year for us.
I do have one question. I know Greg, you mentioned, that tapping into some of these different reserves, like the school choice revolving and such, would have, another cliff in the future for other budget years beyond FY26. Is it possible to see what a hypothetical would look like if this was approved like as is, which, who knows if that's going to happen, like what that potential cliff could look like?
I can work on that.
Yeah, well.
I don't know if we want to see that.
Well, and it's a real thing, and that's why we brought it up, because we want you to be aware of it, and we're going to collectively work on that in terms of costs for the school district. I mean, it's always worthwhile to take a look holistically on how we're doing things and how we can be more efficient. So it's real, and I know Pam spoke about it, $500,000. That's a real number that we're currently short. So we will do our work, but we also believe in East Long Meadow and they're wanting to provide a quality education to the students of the town. So we're grateful for that, and we're going to get there. We'll make it work collectively. Definitely.
I think one of the things too that we've been prioritizing is trying to ensure that not one of the stakeholders, if you will, shoulders the burden of this. So trying to look at what can we place on our families in terms of the athletic fee? What can we look to place on our administrators? Because now if the counselors aren't there for 10 days and they're there for 5, some of that work is going to have to come on to the administrators. What can we look at in terms of resources, being the curriculum renewal freezing? So I think we're trying to make sure that it's a very balanced approach so that lastly, students are the ones that are impacted. They are the ones that we need to ensure continue to receive the top quality education that Greg was just speaking about. And really the only way to do that is to ensure that we're taking as much of this away from what's going to directly impact them and placing more on the shoulders of others, because we have to make sure that we preserve the quality of their educational experience.
I definitely agree with all of that. And also thank you to you and Pam especially for putting together the
You're welcome.
information. It's definitely very illustrative to be able to
Sure.
get all broken out.
We like the
that.
visuals too.
Revise the level 1 first, so that visual on the recap gets better.
Wish it was that simple.
And I'm sure we'll have continued conversations, of course, but
Yes.
we're starting this now instead of April.
Yes.
And Pam's been great. She's been updating us as a committee every meeting now. Once she recognized what was potentially going to happen, it's not quarterly. Every meeting, there's a financial update so that we're really able to keep better thumb on the pulse of what's going on this year so we can better plan for next year.
And there's been a lot of discussion about, I know we've talked about special ed, maybe the way we've been doing business for the last 15 to 20 years is not how we need to be doing things now. Our children are not the same. The problems are different. COVID did change things, and just seeing the ramifications of some of our very youngest children with very challenging problems that we didn't see before. So we're reevaluating a lot of those types of things. And it will take some time. It's not a quick fix. They're conversations, it's analysis, it's discussions, putting a little funding in because perhaps we need to keep a program in-house and not have these kids go out. But it's going to take a little bit of money and a little bit of time and just strategizing on where to move that money and how to better utilize it. So I just wanted you to know that a lot of those conversations are happening in leadership team meetings, with Gordon leading that and then bringing information back to the school committee. So I just thought it was important for you to know that.
And it's real. It's a real thing. If you go into the schools now, things are different than they once were. And so it's our responsibility to educate all the students. And that's what's created this financial hardship. It's a real thing. And so here we are. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. The town side, I think you said you were starting to meet with the heads next week.
Yep.
So I'm sure after that we'll have more ideas on
Yes.
that side of things.
We have about 1.7.
Yeah. I'll talk to everybody.
I can join in.
They open their
Did
meeting.
you say chicken parm? Chicken parm tomorrow. 12 o'clock. Everybody coming?
I'll be there.
Glenn, you gonna be there?
You guys need to close your meeting.
We are going to close our meeting.
Okay.
So in that regard, I take a motion to close, please.
Second.
Motion made by Sarah. Second by William. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion carries 3-0. We are adjourned. Thank you so much.
Thank
you.
Thank you so much for.
Thank you.
Thank you. Motion to move back to.
Okay. Do we have a motion to?
Public speak.
Yeah,
Do you want to do that now or do you want to do the public hearing?
we'll do the public hearing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I make a motion that we move back to 7A, which is public hearings.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, we are at our. I think I lost the paper that you sent, Jeannie, but. You don't mind passing that around.
Coming on down.
Thank you. Okay, this is a public hearing for a liquor license transfer for Tao's Asian Cuisine located at 31 Harkness Avenue. The council members are Jim Lyden, Kathy Hill, Anna Jones, myself, Connor O'Shea, Marilyn Richards, Ralph Page, and John Torsia. And I would ask the clerk to read the lease into the record.
Notice is hereby given under Chapter 138 of the General Laws that D&W Asian Cuisine, DBA Tao's Asian Cuisine, has applied for a transfer of an on-premises all alcoholic beverages license currently held by Hojiabo Corporation, DBA Tao's Asian Cuisine, located at 31 Harkness Avenue, East Massachusetts. The town council will hold a public hearing on the application on Tuesday, February 25, 2025 at 6:15 PM in the Council on Aging Media Room, 328 North Main Street, East Long Meadow. The hearing can also be attended via Zoom webinar. For the council, Jean R. Quagledy, town clerk of the council.
Thank you, Jeannie. Then at this time, I would turn it over to the applicant if you'd like to make a brief presentation and explanation. What's before us?
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Attorney Michael Fenton with the law offices of Schatz, Schwartz and Fenton in Springfield. Our address is 1441 Main Street. I'm joined here today by the principal and owner of D&W Asian Cuisine, Inc., Min Dong, as well as Jonathan, who is the principal of the existing operator of Tao's Asian Restaurant located at 31 Harkness Ave. As the clerk pointed out, this is a transfer of ownership. Mr. Dong's entity, D&W Asian Cuisine, Inc., proposes to acquire all of the assets of the existing entity, Hojiabo Corp. There's no proposed change to the name of the facility, no proposed change to the seating arrangement. We do have an amendment to the lease signed by Country Development Corp. and Mr. Carl Perella assenting to the transfer of the sale. Mr. Dong intends to keep as many of the employees who are currently employed by this longstanding and successful restaurant in town employed through his future ownership. Mr. Dong and his other applicable managers are all tip certified. And he also runs a successful business in Springfield on Boston Road known as Kieran Asian Barbecue, former Olive Garden. He has no violations or any issues with the city of Springfield at that site. We accept all the conditions of the existing permit, including the hours of operation, which will remain the same. And we are scheduled for a planning board hearing a week from this evening to assign the special permit to Mr. Dong's entity. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. At this time, since it is a public hearing, the public now has an address the council. If there's anyone in the audience. Okay, seeing none, I will close the public input portion of the public hearing. If there's any comments or questions from the council. Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved. Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to close the public hearing. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing is now closed and I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve the transfer of an on-premises all alcoholic beverage license for D&W Asian Cuisine Incorporated, doing business as Tao's Asian Cuisine, 31 Harkness Avenue, currently held by Hojiabo Corporation, doing business as Tao's Asian Cuisine.
Made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Motion to return to public comments and follow the regular order of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay.
Passes. This time it is public comment opportunity for Nicholas.
You're late.
No, a little late on the time.
Welcome.
How are you?
Good.
How's everybody doing?
Good. If you could just state your name and address for the record.
Nicholas Torsha, 283 North Main Street, East Long Meadow, Torsha and Sons Landscaping. Question and kind of a statement. So, local town excise tax that is paid yearly based on the amount of vehicles that you have on the road per plate or per business or personal use. Is there anything set up in motion currently right now or going forward to deal with the road situation, side and main road route going through town as far as fixing, maintaining, or possibly redoing at this time?
You want to answer that or you want me to jump in?
If you want to, go for it.
I would love to jump in. So the state of Massachusetts has granted us, or they will be redoing Summers Road, Route 83,
Gotcha.
Connecticut line to the Rotary. They are also going to be doing Prospect Street from the Connecticut line to the Rotary. We have currently a grant in place, which is for North Main Street from Harkness Ave to Dearborn.
So they extended it to LaSalle.
Extended to LaSalle.
Gotcha.
Which will be starting
FY27.
in FY27. Reason for that is that one will take in all the traffic lights and infrastructure and all, where the ones Summers Road and Prospect Street are basically a repaving.
Right.
The town's going to be responsible for doing any culvert repair ahead of time if it needs it, and then the state will redo it. Our Chapter 90 money is what I like to call our pothole money.
Right.
That's about all it covers.
Yeah. Just
How's that?
small repair. Oh, Ralph set it up great.
I sat up all day trying to figure this out for you.
It's Ralph. I appreciate it. No, and then what does excise tax specifically, what does that go towards? Is that what it goes towards?
Goes to the entire town.
Gotcha.
So all the
Just the whole,
taxes that are raised, it goes across to all the services. So not just the roads,
gotcha.
but we do get money, like Ralph said, from the state. So
Gotcha. And why do they just do from Harkness to why wouldn't they do the whole stretch?
So we have to.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, that's fine. When we submit that, it goes as a transportation improvement, aka TIP project, and we have to submit those, but there's only a certain pool of money that
Right.
is allocated to all sorts of communities across Western Massachusetts. So
Gotcha.
it'd be very unlikely if we were to say, let's do all of North Main Street, the entire section, that they would approve that, because that would eat up most of that budget. So we have to chunk it out, unfortunately.
Right.
Which we did just get approved for from LaSalle all the way down to Brook,
Okay.
5 years after that one. So
How much would that have cost the town?
$16 million.
Really? That much?
That's today. That's just for Dearborn.
What they're doing?
Just this first phase. And that's pricing right now.
Current today.
Yeah.
Could obviously change.
Surely it will.
And it definitely. It's not gonna go down.
Yeah.
Right.
So if you don't mind, I think what he's getting at is that is a sort of creative idea in terms of routing specific percentage of the tax pool to certain things. And again, he's right. This guy's right.
Yeah, you're right.
It's just a big local revenue pot.
Right.
it's down to the state, Nick. You got to go to the legislature.
Maybe we got to go to the top then. No, so I think it's, I travel to roads. The roads are probably 85% of my job. So that's why it's just like, it's like every time I hit one, I'm like, oh my God, man.
So the council has also impressed upon me or asked me to sort of try to solve this riddle, because like the school was talking about, roads are not a problem for just East Long Meadow.
No.
This Chapter 90 formula is over 2 decades old. It's no longer appropriate, and it's not in line with costs, certainly.
Right.
So these are the challenges that we have to try to figure out how to best use this money. But Ralph's not wrong. $500,000 when I started back in 2017 did $2.2 million or 2.2 miles of road. Now it does about a half a mile.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So
we've seen it in business too. The spike of money is incredible.
Yeah. It's
crazy.
Yeah.
things that were 12, 13 grand are now 20, 21 grand.
Correct.
So.
So, yeah, this is one of our other challenges, but it's a big one and obviously it's important because there's our infrastructure, but it's also the one everyone sees.
Right.
Everyone drives.
Exactly.
Right. And obviously this is not a great snapshot because it's pothole season.
No, yeah, well, this.
And we just had a snow, ice.
Yeah.
Even though we did a great job, this is when
Takes its toll.
that the roads start coming up. So,
Yeah. And I always see them guys too on Facebook. It's terrible. They bash DPW terror. I hate them.
yeah, no, it's tough.
Them guys work, they do good. I mean, they're out there,
Yep.
and they, but that's another story. Anyway,
Thank you for the.
thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, we are back to financial matters. We have accepting a hazardous materials grant for $5,000. Motion.
Make a motion to accept the hazardous materials grant in the amount of $5,000 for Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53 Act.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Good job, Paul.
Next, we have approving our February 11th open session minutes.
I will make a motion to approve the February 11th, 2025 open session minutes.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Old business. We have adopting the hazard mitigation plan.
You got to make them come up.
I know.
You got to make them.
Time, chief.
This is the plan that we had two public meetings, not public hearings, but public meetings to get the plan out there. It basically aligns the town with FEMA's approval to now apply for federal grants, federal and state grants that are up to FEMA or FEMA, which will allow Bruce potentially with culvert repair projects. And he's tried several times for generator projects, and it's a struggle. It's very competitive. So hopefully this round, now that we're back in it for 5 years now. Once it's approved tonight, we're the plan is approved for 5 more years. So it's kind of a no-brainer for us.
Great. And I recall this was the presentation that came before us a few months ago too.
Right.
Those.
Yep. I think the last one was in October, and then it went from there to FEMA, and then FEMA had one quick change, which was easy for internal. It was more just a language change inside, and then it was approved. Yeah.
Great. Ralph?
5 years doesn't seem long enough. Blink our eyes and we're going to be doing this again. And saying,
It's funny because the last one we did was in 2016, and because of COVID, everything got delayed and it expires in 5 years. But it was a blink of an eye. And unfortunately, I was the only one around on the committee last time, and there was a whole bunch of new people on the committee, which worked out great because there wasn't a lot of edits that needed to be done, but it just takes time.
Right.
Great. All right. Thank you for putting it together.
No worries.
Other
Thank you.
comments? I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So through the chair, I noticed on page 4, they have a specific layout for adoption of the plan. Is that something that we actually have to do, or is that just a recommendation and just say, hey, let's adopt it?
I'm going to kind of defer that to the town manager.
We did talk about it. I did
read it.
Yeah.
Not all 124 pages,
Stop
but I
at
did.
Page 4. It seemed
It
to,
says sample adoption.
yeah, you adopt how you would normally adopt a plan
Okay.
like this, that is like a guideline for us to use
You can fill it in.
to mitigate hazards. And so rather than go through all that, we decided that a regular motion of adoption for you is more than adequate.
Great.
Then I would make a motion to approve the hazard mitigation plan as presented.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That's the plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. See you tomorrow.
Okay, next we had revisiting the capital stabilization fund policy. This had been something from previous meetings when we had created that fund. This was just circling back to it. Had any suggested language changes on the funds policy?
So through the chair,
Sure.
I thought we had asked, mentioned that we wanted this to be more of a municipal building capital stabilization fund. And I thought when we said that, that the wording was going to be adopted or changed and then sent back to us.
Okay.
And I may have misunderstood that.
It seems like I may have.
Supposed to do it and send it, but
I thought we were going to have a conversation because I didn't realize that that was a.
we
what?
can have that.
No. I like
I just
honestly,
wasn't sure. That's
I know that at least you and Kathy were wanted to see the building. I didn't know if that was sort of I thought we were going to have a conversation to revise it in terms of what we wanted to see. If you just want and again, I think I misunderstood that. And when I saw it on the agenda, I was like, oh boy. And then I didn't get back around to it till about 4:30 this afternoon after I signed my name on the beam at the high school. So whatever your pleasure is, if you don't want to waste time talking about it in the meeting, we can kind of come up with something and bring it to the next meeting. If that's what we're thinking. I mean, I think we were looking at this like large expenditures, which let's face it, most of them will be building projects. And we have other funds that we could, if we needed to do elsewhere. And that's fine. And I apologize for dropping the ball on that, the revision piece, but we can work that language up if it's the council's pleasure to make it a capital building stabilization fund and revise that language for next time.
Is that the pleasure of everyone?
Yes.
So that was my thought. And that's why I think we changed the amount that it says to go into it. Because if we don't have any money, then we don't put any in. But if we have a little bit extra and we want to stash some away towards, I mean, we're going to have the school, middle school, I believe, the fire department, renovation of the town hall when we're finally in there.
Forget the PD. That's probably on top of the list.
I thought I hit that. That was this figure, but that's probably top of the list.
And this is something that, because it hasn't been budgeted for yet, is not an increase if we don't put it in this year. So in all likelihood, this will be a suggestion not to fund in the budget this year, because we can leave that out of an increase, which is really all we're looking at this point, is how much that budget can increase and how much people need it to increase. So that's where we're going to have to, that 100,000 probably seems like an easy one to just say, right, we're not doing that. And then we won't create a hole because we've never budgeted for it. So when we get to that point, all these things that we've budgeted for, and then we take a year off and then try to put them back, it's like 1.5, right? It's not really just putting it back to where it was. We've created a hole or a cliff or something like that we have to keep chasing. So I apologize. We will update this language to sort of indicate that this will be a municipal building stabilization fund, and change all the other language as necessary.
I know.
Are there any other parameters that the council wants, or is it mostly just municipal building? Just want to make sure there's nothing else.
Yeah. No, it's fair.
Assuming municipal building would mean either the purchase of a new building, the rehabilitation of a building, engineering for a new building.
Emergency repairs.
Right.
Inexpensive.
Well, so and like we just talked about capital last year, the only thing we bonded was the modulars. Right. So if we had 1.3 million or more in there, we could have just paid for it and not took a bond out.
Yep.
So, I mean, that makes sense. Those are the projects that this account is most likely going to be used for.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll revise that and it'll be on the next agenda if that's fine.
Sounds like a plan. Next up, we have under new business, we have the discussion of a proposed zoning amendment relative to massage therapist facilities for a first reading.
So this actually isn't the first reading, right? This is whether or not we want to send it to the planning board. It wouldn't be a first reading of the bylaw because we haven't technically received
one. Yeah.
theirs. So the way it works is they can petition us. We tell them whether we think it's even a good idea, then it goes to them for a public hearing vote. So then when it comes back, we do the first reading and then the second reading.
As far as I understood it, anytime that they send us anything, even if it's just their petition, it is a first reading, then we refer it back. And then when it comes back to us, it's a second reading. We can keep continuing it. Beyond that, we had met.
I think that is technically how the law reads. However, hasn't been operating procedure under the charter. But I feel like we've been doing things a certain way and we can interpret the law different than we've been operating.
So I think the charter says that petitioner, whether it be a separate department or an individual within town, can petition the council to make amendments, changes, measures. If we so choose, then we assign it to the department and say, okay, yeah, we think a zone change is good. Let's send it to the planning board for them to create it.
And I think as we've talked about our bylaw process before,
It doesn't make a difference on this one, but
yeah.
and again, I think
Yeah, because the first reading isn't advertised, right? So you don't have to hit I mean, it's advertised, but it's not a hearing.
It's not exactly. I know.
Maybe this isn't the, I don't know how the guy was there.
Yeah.
There's.
It seems a little weird that if the planning board wants something, they send it to the council and we send it right back to them.
Right.
Which was our position with the charter. It didn't make that much sense coming from a department, but coming from a citizen, it makes sense. Like if Mr. Torshed wanted us to consider a zone change.
Right.
Well, we would say, hey, that makes sense. The planning board should take a look at this and see about doing
I feel like there's something in there about the format, right? If that is the request, it's not properly formatted as a bylaw, which this request is, right? Like they've redlined it and they've followed the rules in the charter for a first reading, first submittal. If it was just, hey, I'd like to make a zone change, then you decide the marijuana thing. You decide if you think it's worth even going through the process. So it's like I know we've always sort of done it like this, but I think we were looking at the general law and our charter. And I think if it's properly formatted, the submittal from planning board, if it's properly formatted, can be the first reading.
I think it's confusing and tricky and general.
Yeah. Was that English that I was talking?
Definitely.
Everything else. So because of that, it is, I think, a first reading.
And when you look at the charter, it says prior to final passage, each introduced bylaw shall be read at 2 separate council meetings, the second of which shall be a public hearing. It doesn't really say when, at what point you do the first reading.
But if you go back to petitioned measures, any measures introduced, petitioned, that you petition the council and the council directs where to go.
So that's further on in the charter, right? The bylaw section says if you submit one subject, right, properly formatted.
The one night they didn't.
The one night.
Oh.
You want my charter?
Well, the planning board is the applicant. Right. The planning board is coming to us saying this is what they want to do.
Right.
I was at their meeting. I rest. And they all spoke in support of what this is. And so I hear what you're saying, and I agree with the person who comes in and wants to create a zone change to provide 10-wheelers in their neighborhood or something. that would certainly come to us first and we decide that's ridiculous. But anyway, no, the planning board did discuss this and they all were in favor of sending it to us. And Rob's card did out, so I think.
I'm gonna refer back to the drone.
Advertises them.
Which one?
The drones.
Oh, the drones, okay.
Planning board created a bylaw and sent it to us and we said, doesn't make any sense. We're not sending it back. We're not gonna ask you to do it because it's not gonna go anywhere.
Already set it up.
But wasn't that different because it wasn't like affecting like zoning and table of uses? Wasn't that just a general bylaw that they were asking us to consider?
Okay. What's the general bylaw?
So I think that's why it's different, because anything that's.
So what I would love to see, and I know Mitch will start.
I know.
Is a procedure, basically. And so that way they're going forwards, we can say, hey, if it's a zoning bylaw, this is, and if it's a zoning bylaw brought to us by the planning department, then we just jump right to the first reading and.
It's something that we did start talking about back in December, but honestly, with everything it's been on our back burner to.
We didn't get back to
revisit putting that chart together of all the steps we have to follow. But yes, I agree. We definitely need to.
So if we do a first reading tonight, then do we have a discussion on it? Or do we have a discussion before a first reading? On whether or not we even want it to go forwards?
I think we could do the first reading and then whatever motion you wish to make after that, whether we send it or not is.
I would just like to give a little background on it. I was on the planning board when it was done, but I do understand and we can do a first reading of it and then, and I nominate.
All right.
Anyone other than me to read it.
Send them to read the letter sent to us.
I'll read the cover list.
And then.
Yeah, okay. Dear Ms. Quagliati, at their February 18, 2025 meeting, the planning board voted unanimously to move forward a proposed zoning amendment for the town council's initial consideration and review. The proposed amendments pertain to allowing massage therapy by right and no longer via special permit. The amended sections include the deletion of section 450, subsection 8.9, massage therapist facilities, and modification to table 3-1, schedule of use regulations. Text in blue indicates language to be included, while red, that's crossed out, text indicates language to be deleted. The planning board, as the proponent for the zoning amendment, believes that it is no longer necessary to have massage therapist facilities go through the special permit process, while they already undergo extensive licensing through the Board of Health and the state. The board hopes that the town council will consider moving this proposal forward and to jumpstart the public hearing process. Oh, for the board, I'm sorry, Robert A. Watchilla.
Thank you, Marilyn. And then would someone like to read Article 8 special permits? It's just really the part that's, I guess I'll just say the Article 8 special permits, it would cross out and remove 450-8.9 massage therapist facilities, A, B, C, D, and E, and it would renumber 450-8.10 to 8.9. And then under the table of uses, under bylaw number 8, massage therapist facility or licensed massage therapy salon, it would strike out under standards and conditions, see Article 8 and Section 450-8.9, and it would change commercial business and industrial and mixed use village from special permit to a yes. Okay, with that, the first reading done.
It's easy.
I know Russ from the planning board is here. I don't know if you have anything that.
I just wanted to reiterate what Marilyn said. We reviewed the types of information they need to provide to the state to get a license. And I also compared it to other personal services like barbershop, hairdresser service. And in preparation of this meeting, I went on the state site And, they have to provide a floor plan. They have to have all three of those: hairdressers, barbers, massage therapists. Also have to get a Corey check and provide that. So I think that was an issue. And then the other thing is I saw a Channel 22 Channel 22 report back in 2017, where Mr. Page was the spokesperson for the town. She indicated that the initial reason they had put it in was they wanted to catch kind of bad characters, but having a special permit didn't make that happen. They weren't necessarily catching the perpetrators of what had occurred in town before. So it's a way to kind of make it a little easier for the massage therapists to start their operations here in town. I just felt it was.
Great. Thank you, Russ.
Can I just add something?
Sure, Marilyn.
For years, the town had massage therapists come with a license from the state. A facility obviously was inspected by the Board of Health, and a business certificate. And it worked fine for years. And we had one situation, and I understand why it happened. I do. I just think that lots of things happen even if we have all controls in place. And this is one thing that I think it's overkill for one person to just want to open up and massage my back, that kind of thing. So I really, I think it should go to the planning matter subcommittee.
Any other comments, Ralph?
So the history was that we put the special permit in place after there was a facility operating illegally. One of the things that the police department was concerned about was the state was unwilling to pull their license, and we had no recourse in closing the business down. Although they were doing things they shouldn't, we couldn't close them down. The reason we chose a special permit is because we could revoke the special permit and say, no, you can no longer operate there a lot faster and more efficiently than the state. With that being said, do I think it's overkill? I did at that time. I think we were punishing a lot of massage therapists for one facility that operated outside the rules. I still believe that way. I don't have a problem with removing it, but just understand that we do risk the possibility that if we have another facility come in, that we may not have the mechanism to shut them down as quickly as we'd like to.
Through the chair, I don't know if anybody knows this, but do we happen to know if the state has changed their regs in a significant way on massage therapists places to sort of maybe be able to have more teeth?
There is a professional licensure division of the state. If someone's committing a crime, they can revoke their license to operate.
Well, I think that's what I was gonna ask. If the massage place, whatever, therapist facility was doing something improper, was it illegal?
Oh, yeah.
So.
Oh, yeah.
If they're
People
operating
went
illegally.
to jail afterwards on it, so.
The town would make a application to the professional licensure division of the state. And they would just hold a hearing and revoke their certificate to operate or their license to operate.
Okay, makes sense to me. Tom?
So thank you for being here. Rob had a conflict. Russ was nice enough to show up in his stead. Since I've been manager, I've had multiple conversations with this type of business, and meaning this exact business, basically complaining about how long it takes to fill a space that's already full, right? Somebody leaves and they just want to go back. I mean, obviously there's new furniture, but and it just, the special permit process, and it just takes a long time to happen. And I think there's enough in place at the state level that to come to East Long Meadow and then have to go through it all again is sending at least half of those people I talk to Long Meadow or Wilbraham. So I think it's trying to cut down on people not doing business in East Long Meadow because our process is a little bit cumbersome. And again, these are just conversations I've had with applicants and or people that have moved on. Apparently they're a tight network, the massage therapists, but so that's sort of just my input from 2 years of sort of listening to this topic.
Makes a lot of sense. Thank you, Tom.
Through the chair, just to point out historically, it wasn't only happening in East Long Meadow. It happened in Long Meadow. And just so that it wasn't just East Long Meadow. Just wanted to make sure. That's exactly. I'm reading the reports.
I'm curious what Long Meadow did in response.
They closed them down.
Just closed them down.
The state police came in and closed them down.
Okay, here we go.
So Anna was my colleague in the DA's office. I remember this investigation in several municipalities. This is my first thought when I saw this on our agenda tonight. And to your point, Marilyn, one bad apple kind of ruining it for the rest of them. My first thought was, do you want to give up? If it's already in place, do you want to give up that leverage potentially? I do know in one of the other locations where it was shut down, they were back in business like within a week. So I get maybe there's a different process we can go by that's more efficient than being cumbersome, but do we want to at this point give up that leverage where if it does come down that road, you do want to shut something down and move it along. You do want that ability. I do know one of the other places, and it was beyond, I think what some folks might, some misdemeanor, it was, human trafficking was involved, and it was a very lengthy and very costly, very cumbersome investigation that was run. And it's, the person was literally back in business. After all of that, they were back in business within a week, and not in East Long Meadow, not in Long Meadow, but another smaller municipality. So I throw that out there just, through my own experience and kind of watching it all unfold. It's nice to have that leverage when you want it. But in the meantime, there's more of a happy medium to extradite the process and not making it so my 2 cents.
Yeah.
No, I wasn't gonna say anything.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't, and then I was, and then.
More air quotes.
Okay, if there's no other discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
I will make a motion to refer the proposed zoning bylaw amendments relative to massage therapist facilities to the planning board for a public hearing and a recommendation to the town council.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you for coming, Russ.
Thanks, Russ.
Nice to see you.
Thanks, Russ.
Under new business, we had discussion of a bylaw regarding transparency of East Long Meadow employee contracts. Ralph, I know you brought this like one of the.
I did.
You want to refresh our memory?
I have to refresh my own memory. So the question came to me by a couple different people as far as why we don't put onto our website our different contracts that have been approved. Whether the different union contracts and all, so that people can easily find them. They referred me to a couple other towns which seem to list all the different contracts. So that way there, if you're curious as far as, what the people at the fire department are, receiving, or the police department or teachers union or whatever, that the contracts are there. They are public records, and they thought that putting them onto the website would be good. I also referred back to, I believe it was 2015. I may be wrong on the date. But that we had, I think it was at the end that the selectmen had chose to put in a rule that all employee compensation would be listed. And what they did is they listed all the employees by the departments and put in their yearly salary. That was a regulation that the selectmen had put into place. It was put up 1 year. Never showed up again. The regulation was still in place. It continues on even through the charter. It just never got continued. I do understand, and I talked to our previous town manager, and like she explained, she's like, well, this person sees what this person's making, and why are they making more than me? And she's like, when you bring it into the open, it can cause issues. I think it's all public record. I don't have an issue with it, and again, I'm not sure. And the reason I brought it up was, as we're doing the bylaws, if we want to consider putting something like that in, my thought is to put something into the bylaw so that it can't just change with who's ever in charge at the time, or I don't feel like doing it this year. We try to follow our bylaws. We don't always. Sometimes we don't understand them. That was obvious. But again, it was something I wanted to bring up and see how the council felt about it, see if it's something that we even want to consider going forwards. I don't think it's something we have to rush into immediately, but I mean, we're about to look over everything, so.
Through the chair, I when I first saw this on the agenda, I thought it was a surprise that we don't already do it. Not only do other communities do it, but the entire state's 41,000, whatever it is, employees. I'm a state employee. You can go online. I don't know the website off the top of my head right now, but
spell your last name.
you can look at everybody's, my colleagues, anybody in other secretariats and departments and whatever. So I think, I mean, if the state can do that for 41,000 people, I feel like we can do that. I mean, it doesn't need to be something that we do immediately, but because I know we've got a lot of things going on right now, but I think it would be a good step. It's a small thing, but I think it would be a good step in the interest of transparency. And I think the idea, I mean, I do understand what the former town manager, I think that's a good point, but I feel like it would be probably better to have that transparency that outweigh the risk of, people seeing what other people.
And if it's public record, can't they find it anyway?
I think they can request the information.
They just have to request.
This would be
They do.
easier.
They do.
Do you have requests from time to time?
All the time.
Is that something that takes a long time to furnish individual requests, that doing something like this and putting it out there ahead of time would reduce?
No, the only thing that I would say would be difficult is, like everything else, just keeping it updated. But I met Representative Ash's new chief of staff the other day. She Googled something and sent me a link. It was an old document, but it came up on Google, and it was like Governor Charlie Baker. It was like our list of that we had on the site of our reps and the governor and all these contact numbers. And so, admittedly, like you said, even trying to follow bylaws, like sometimes you don't see that one or whatever, but this is, I don't care. I have to do my whole life on camera. So, are other people going to care? Yeah. Just like they did when we made sure only the department head was in the department head line item, right? We have all those when we talk at financial oversight, every salary has a spreadsheet in every department. So is it a heavy lift? No. I mean, people that know how to use spreadsheets could export that really quickly. I can't. It would take a lot of cutting and pasting, like real cutting and pasting. But no, this is a public area in a public domain, and it's all public record. And I have no problem putting any of it anywhere. So if that's your pleasure, or yeah, we can do it. We can do it tomorrow. Well, not tomorrow, but.
As I understand it, if the regulation was adopted by the select board prior to the change of the government, and that regulation stayed in force. So whether it's, I don't even know where it is.
Yeah, where is it?
It's probably in the box that was in the closet. That's where they found.
Shredded all those.
But anyway, and either we repeal it and not do it, or just piggyback what's there and make it more inclusive with the contracts. I think it was just salaries.
So I will say that was a big thing that came out of that whole communication audit obviously the word transparency is a buzzword and blah, blah, blah. But if you don't actually be transparent, like you can't really say you're being transparent. So again, we can put it all up there. We put the budget up there as it is at the end because it's already 43 pages when we do just the recap of it or a summary of the budget. But if everybody wants to see everything, I mean, they could pick up the phone and get it in one phone call. So if I would like to see the regulation so I can yell at whoever I need to yell at.
Well, where is it?
No, I'm just kidding.
As far as the selectmen, I don't know if you're ever going to find it. It's sort of like looking for the used car.
It was the used car regulation was in a cardboard box in the
Yeah.
bottom.
So
And Marge
The bottom.
retyped it and then put it in her computer. So it's in your,
It's in there somewhere.
right,
That's the used car one, not
used car.
this
and
particular.
that's why I'm basically saying, hey,
But there might
yeah,
be
that
there
might
too.
be there, but
She might
maybe
have
we
found
should
it.
just go forward.
Yeah. So I guess I would say is a bylaw necessary? Like,
That was my, somebody would just handle administratively as opposed to a bylaw.
Policy.
well, of course, a bylaw wouldn't get lost in a paper box 10 years ago. But,
Yeah,
yeah,
I think that's an interesting thing because we don't really have a place that we've kept, here's a list of random regulations or votes that the council has taken that we want to memorialize beyond 6 months from now and not forget about.
Yeah, like I said, again, the all the information is for public consumption. And the only thing that would change on a Freedom of Information Act request is we'd have to make sure we don't have to redact anything, right? I mean, most of the personnel record or payroll, call it, say if somebody asks for payroll, they can have it. We have to redact the social security and address and phone number and all this stuff. But
And they ask for it.
and they ask for it.
Regular basis.
Yeah, it happens a lot. So, and again, if it's a big ask, we get compensated for our time and material, or if it's a huge ask. But if we want to put it up
Here, you just go, it's online. Here's the location. And you want to find it, there you go.
Well, half the people in the communications audit don't have the internet somehow or like to use the computer, so they need it.
It could be something that if we move forward with doing this, that it doesn't be that we have to update it every time people are coming or going. It could just be when we do the budget
Fiscal year.
process, just
Yeah,
update
every
it
July
once a
1
year.
and you get what you get.
Are you talking just the salary or the whole contract of the position, the individual? Because I thought it was
So-
a contract you're
So
talking.
what I was talking, two different things. So positions, employee name, what their yearly salary is. That's one portion of it. The second is the different contracts. that we have.
Contracts.
Union and non-union?
Yeah.
Department heads and all that.
I don't know. Hey,
Well, union
I don't
contract.
read all that stuff, but
Some people do.
yeah, I guess.
Do people ask for contracts? Or just salaries, both?
Big ones.
Yeah, so I'll just make sure that nothing is protected in any of these documents. And again, everybody has them. So everybody uses them to negotiate. So it is what it is. But again, this is where the salary conversation,
Right.
because everybody keeps leapfrogging everybody else. And that's how we are at 80% for our salary line item. And again, it's worth it. Our people are our best asset. You got to pay them. And the only way to keep them in the public sector is to pay them. Right? I mean, we just don't pay as much.
It's usually a firm that wants the payroll of all the employees, right, Jackie? But then it's usually one employee or former employee that wants specific contracts of specific positions of people.
I feel like myself, I asked.
Yeah. Because I don't think there's anything in a personnel contract that wouldn't be public record anyway. Other than, no. So I'll just ask our labor council real quick. And then as fast as we can get the information up there, so just putting the union contract up there with sort of the steps and that's one thing, but then you need to see where everybody is and what they're making every year. And again, all that information is on a spreadsheet.
I'm thinking just updated once a year, the salaries.
Yeah.
I mean, that way there, it's not like every week.
Yeah.
No, of course. So yeah, because obviously,
Yeah, because people will come and go.
Right.
no, and a lot of the contracts are based on hire date, and that's never July 1, obviously. So things change during the year anyway, which we budget for, but yeah, salary as of July 1, 2026. 2025. I don't need a full year. Okay.
So do we direct the bylaw committee to create a bylaw to address what you're
Or
going to
do you
do?
just?
Should we find that vote for the I mean, if there's already a regulation in
Look at
place.
Deborah's, look
I
at.
don't think the regulation talked about any of the contracts. It was simply employee salaries.
Right.
That would be listed.
Maybe just rehab, perhaps what, build on what.
I
think if
wouldn't
we're gonna-
mind going forwards and attempting to write something and then bringing it back and seeing what you guys think.
I think that's probably the best avenue rather than trying to.
And just
for
keep it
something that we
simple and basic.
Yeah, we have to update another one for June, updating the fee schedule, right? After we do the budget, the fee schedule has got to be up there for July 1, so. Oh, good. We'll wait to go on vacation. It's not a big deal.
Do you want me to try to find that vote? The Board of Selectmen vote?
Look a little bit.
You know what year it was?
Do it.
Just look in the box. It's not there.
Ralph, do you know what year?
You know what? Let me contact you. I want to say 2015,
Okay.
because it was right when all the things were stirring up and it got really exciting.
Must watch. Okay, fair.
All right, so we will wait further proposals before us. Next up, we have the town manager mid-year performance evaluation. So we are a little beyond the 6-month, and we'll have the full performance evaluation of Tom coming up in a couple short months before the end of his contract term. I had asked Tom to just put together a little brief summary of where he was on the goals that we had voted on back in July.
Which I didn't get to you in writing.
Yes,
but
nothing
sorry.
expansive of a review, but just a quick mid-year check-in point. So if you would like to.
Yeah, regale you. Thanks, Jeannie. Yeah, so I'll just, Connor did ask me to sort of put something together, which I didn't, so we'll do it verbally right now. The goals themselves, it's always interesting. Obviously there's 4 that came to me in terms of actual goals, but I think I look at your individual goals that you submitted more than I look at this sheet. And it's funny to sort of take a step back and see all the things that, not necessarily are going wrong, but things that we can just improve upon. Like you said, if maybe we don't lose the special permit, we changed one of our processes and boom, same things accomplished. But as far as the 4 you gave me, the building space usage and needs assessment plan, which was sort of, just what it sounds like. Bruce emailed me, I think, 2 hours after that meeting broke, and he was like, I got all that. And I'm like, whoa, slow down. And after the capital cycle, we'll get back together and sort of go through everything. As you can imagine, this, like most of our other things, is Ralph had asked me a question the other day that everything's sort of a moving target with our plan, especially for 382, and how that sort of aligns with when the leases come off and how are we going to get things on the capital plan to, I was explaining it to, the podcast, the View podcast the other day, and,
We're on the View?
the stories at the View.
Oh, my
I
gosh.
guess I should clarify that more often.
Pleasant.
And the Pleasant View, thank you, Marilyn, I appreciate that. And, you know, we, when we do move, we want to do it the one time, right? So we're trying to figure out when these dates all line up, right? And obviously the right now, technically that first lease comes off in March of 27. And do we want to just get everybody in there and start the move and then wait 3 years? And so we're trying to figure out that, and this whole budget picture has sort of made me step back to kind of, maybe we keep some of that revenue coming in for a couple more years and keep paying for the building with the existing tenants. So the two parts of that I think that are the most important here are obviously the shift to town hall and what we're going to do with Old Town Hall, and this thing that Bruce sort of has already, which is this 3, 5, 10, 20-year capital plan, which DPW, we had started, I don't know, 5 years ago with an asset management plan for water, sewer, stormwater. And of course, Bruce had building because he was the building maintenance supervisor forever. So that process is sort of laid out in Bruce's eyes, but now I need to have a conversation with Bruce and sort of prioritize where we need to go. I brought up, and I can't believe you missed it because we talked about it so much, but the next is the police station. The police station needs some big time help. And again, I'll have this all sort of tied up in a bow at some point for you, but for now, those are the conversations that have sort of been happening in terms of what we've got for assets from the building standpoint, and the move. Again, the date keeps changing in my head every time I have a budget conversation, which is kind of annoying because I'd like to nail this thing down, but I think the reality of the situation is we might not be able to move in that first day that we want to move in, which is unfortunate because we've been talking about it for a while. And again, I haven't made a final decision yet, but it's going to be difficult to sort of lose out on a bunch of revenue if we can't do something together with this budget and where we're trending. That it might not be prudent to make that move when we wanted to. And of course that will change every week. So next time I'll tell you that we're back on for March in 27 and everything worked out and we're good to go. The road improvement plan, that's a big one. It's been a big one for me since I said 2017. But we're just not getting the funding. All the pleas to the state from literally every municipality in the Commonwealth sort of gone by the wayside. I mean, I know that there's another sort of plan here with an additional $100 million every year for 5 years, I think was the layout in the whatever that bond bill was. So there's the $200 million layout, which is standard, and then an extra 100 every year, and then sort of a 5-year rollout. So that we could get some additional money, and obviously we've been getting the RAP money here and there, and some of the other sort of small funding supplements. But the plan itself, the data to update our road worksheet has been collected because you guys, we used some money from free cash to get that done. So that's been collected. We're just waiting for the final report now. And at that point, luckily, as Ralph mentioned earlier in the meeting, we've got some pretty fortunate projects coming up. Two seemingly out of nowhere, Route 83 and Prospect Street. Unless you count the one call I made in early 2018, I don't think that really, changed anybody's mind. But we just have to do an impossible job of making this small budget go further than it does. There's no, it's not feasible for us to start a paving team at DPW. I mean, not now it isn't, but we're always going to rely on a contractor to do this work. And as trucking and asphalt and oil prices are where they are, nothing's going to change. We have 110 miles of roadway in town still and a half a mile a year. I mean, that's easy math for everyone. So something needs to change at either the state or the federal level. In the interim, when we get this plan, Mark and I and Bruce will sort of prioritize what's next. And I think even the public speaker mentioned side streets, which you naturally is the ones that have gone by the wayside the longest. It's not worth the return on our investment. Unfortunately, right now, we have to pave our main roads. There's not enough money to get without serious construction projects and paving afterwards. There's really no plan that I can come up with that is going to help us pave our cul-de-sacs and our side streets. And it's just not, it won't be a priority until the funding source changes. That said, I think, based on how much money we invested in capital last year, and how much our general fund debt, not excluded debt, obviously that's going way up, but our general fund debt, thanks to some of our decisions, is coming down. Maybe we can start thinking about putting a little bit more money, a large sum of money towards like a one-time $4 million, $5 million. Let's see how much we can get done, at least in these main thoroughfares, and try to use all the Chapter 90 to get down the small roadways. So again, once we have this updated data, we'll crank out some sort of priority plan, which is part of the plan, but it's in a vacuum. And they have semi-traffic count, and this road needs to be done before this road. That's what the computer says. Well, we know that, Maple has to get done before Knollwood, or, you know what I'm saying? So that's sort of in flux too. But that data should be coming soon. Like I said, that's all collected. Capital Stabilization Fund we've created. I thank you for that. I feel like that's going to help moving forward. I think the council in particular, I guess management can take a little bit of credit, but the fact that our finances are where they are has a lot to do with the legislative branch of East Long Meadow. And so everybody that's ever been on it should probably pat themselves on the back to in one bond cycle to save $24 million. I know it was a huge sum of money, but we were expecting to be paying a lot of money and $25 million at one point just came out of that whole pot. And that's literally because we are sound financially, we have good policies, and we make good decisions. And I think that capitalization fund, municipal building capital stabilization fund is gonna be huge for us moving forward. As long as we continue to fund it and figure out some sort of target as we move here where we want that to sit. And we'll hit it because we've hit all the other ones, because we're responsible with the money and we save when we should save, and it helps in the long run. So obviously that has been created. We still have some tweaks to do on the language. But the last one was the car break-in and theft strategy. So I've had multiple conversations with Mark and Lieutenant Manning about this, and some of our detectives who have already tried to reach out to the community. They had I had mentioned in my report, they had Long Meadow and East Long Meadow did a meet the detectives thing here at the COA. Which they got quite a draw. They had pizza, John, food, just have food and people.
Eat them and
Yeah. So this is an interesting conversation always, because these in particular are crimes of opportunity, and not we don't have as many cars and or officers on every single street, right? These are professionals that find a situation that's vulnerable, jump out of their car real quick, steal a bunch of stuff, jump back in and go. So to that, Lieutenant Manning had a decent idea that other communities do, similar to like a neighborhood watch where everybody's got the Ring camera now. And so you sign up. Now, we don't have 100% access to your Ring camera, obviously, but if a crime is committed in the area, you're on the registry and the police or the detectives can go to your house and say, can I see your
That's cool.
camera for a certain amount of time? So obviously that'll take a little bit of a setup and a database. And now with our cruiser cams and body cams, some of this will sort of fortuitously happen on its own. But I think this is another one that we're going to roll out a lot of public information on. I think we live in obviously a very safe community, but these things happen a lot. And a lot of them are cars unlocked or key fobs in the cup holder in the garage. And what is that face? The point being that these are things that they've dealt with a lot in East Long Meadow. And so these are sort of the ideas that we're going to try to push out to accomplish this goal. And that's a little sort of community involvement when we could use some help gathering information to stop this from happening. And I feel like, with the cameras on the cruisers and the body cams, and maybe some more outreach to let people know that our community is helping each other police itself too. If we get that message out, I think that's going to go a long way, sort of helping these numbers come down. Again, it's a difficult thing to gauge and or decide if you've done a good job, because people will always try to break into cars at 3 a.m. It doesn't matter what town you live in, and it doesn't matter how many cameras you have on intersections, which we keep increasing as well. These opportunity crimes they happen and they're difficult to prevent. But I think with some public outreach and putting my head together with Mark and Lieutenant Manning and everybody else at the PD, I think we can probably roll out a nice sort of public information session or multiple. And then I really like that idea of a Ring camera registry, so to speak, that if a crime were to be committed, we'd have sort of more information than we could possibly have. Again, we have all of our cameras are on our big intersections. We don't have any on, Sanford and Wyndham. It's just, we're not ever going to. And the route is the officers are patrolling, but trying to catch those crimes happening when they're happening is very difficult. So I think if we can do a little preventative on our end and some public outreach, I think we can stop a lot of that from happening. So other than that, with our new building commissioner, for the first time in a very long time, we have 0 vacancies at the department head level.
Had to say it, didn't you?
No, I've knocked on a lot. No, he's been here since before Christmas. I've been knocking on wood ever since. Even a retirement with good succession planning, we won't miss a beat there. So everything continues to be. I continue to be amazed by our staff, how much work we get done, the collaborative nature of it. Paul mentioned it at our department head meeting. That was his last one. If anybody calls anybody, 3 people answer and they're like, yeah, what can we do? It's an outstanding place to work. And again, we've been talking about the salaries a lot tonight, and our biggest asset are our people. We have very fine people here. I'm again, still privileged to come to work. I'm happy with my job. I'm happy to be here. We still are working hard at the things that we know we're still falling short on. And again, like everybody else, it all depends on the budget and what do we actually have resources to do. Do we wish we could do it all? Of course. But we're going to keep trying. And I think if we can sort of continue on this collaborative path with fiscal responsibility and good, hard work, sort of that mentality that we can get this stuff done together. Again, I still see the needle pointing up and I don't see that stopping anytime soon. And I can't think of anything else other than the budget of FY26 right now, and that will continue till about June 1st. But again, that too is a challenge that we'll all have to meet head on, and we're going to have tough conversations this year. And at the end of the day, we'll be left with what we're left with. But I'm happy to be here. I hope you still feel the same about me. Again, like I said, I hope to be here for a long time. I hope to be seeing a lot of these projects through for a long time. I enjoy every minute of it and happy to be here. So, and I will answer literally anything. If you have any questions, I was trying to go on long enough so everyone would be tired. It's past. No, honestly, and I know you know, and most of you take advantage of it. If you ever want to come to the office, if you ever need anything, my door is always open. There's very few hours in my schedule that are currently open, but anytime you guys all have my cell phone number, whatever you need, we'll get it done.
Thank you, Tom.
Through the chair.
Sure.
Not really a question. I think it's more of a statement. Is there anything, actually, I guess it is a question. Is there anything that the council can do in their abilities to help you achieve move anything forwards?
Yeah.
Anything you need from us that would make life easier or better that we can do?
Not necessarily. I mean, I think at some point when this, I think it's hard to like plan for a big project. But I don't know if that appropriation is going to happen or if we need a, right? So say a police station, just a hypothetical, right? If we tried to build a police station right now, that's a $15-20 million expenditure. And we go through this process of, sort of planning for it and finding space during construction and this, that, and the other thing. And I realize that that's probably the end goal of this first goal, is if I tell you that we need a police station, I assume that we're all sort of on board that we got to figure out how to make this work, right? I don't think, to answer that question, Ralph, I don't think that I need any help from you any more than you give me. I look back at where, say, the council and the manager, and even before that, but the council and manager, I feel like the town was like feeling itself out. Kathy, you've been here basically the whole time, right? I mean, this relationship,
Marilyn?
I feel like this relationship has morphed into this thing that is like almost a singular unit on most days. And if I do need something, it happens. And I think when you need something, it happens. I just want to, some consistency and continuity about where we all think we're going and what we want. Obviously, we're not going to agree all the time. It can't happen. But I think this attitude that we have where we're sort of, trying to get all this stuff done, but still staying fiscally responsible. I think if we can all sort of still think like that, obviously there are going to be large expenditures that are going to happen. Some of them out of our control and out of our timeline. But I think if these are good goals because they're just planning for the future of East Long Meadow, which is why all 7 of you are here, why I'm here, why most people that want to be here. So again, I how about if I ever do need your help, just keep answering the phones. That's what I would say to that, I suppose. I've had multiple conversations with most of you on a myriad of topics, and I just wanted to continue because I just feel like we were talking about the school committee. If we just keep having these conversations, there's nothing that comes up, then we're like, oh, why didn't we think of that? Because somebody thought of it, right? I'm encouraged by the advancement of the community over the last decade, and I'm just happy to now be part of it. That's where I'm at.
Any other feedback or comments? Marilyn?
He lived happily ever.
I have a list of the town manager goals that we all submitted.
Yep.
And one of my goals was not picked.
Okay.
And
I can't believe it.
Unbelievable.
well, I was in charge of the committee.
Could have just slid it in there.
I'm honest. The goal was improved frequency of communication that is measurable between the town council and the town manager.
Mhm.
And I know that since Connor's been president, he has sent us all kinds of things, which I'm sure comes from you. So through the back door, we're hearing from you.
Yeah.
But my question about what I was disappointed in was that we, as a council, had not any idea of how the fire chief appointment was going to play out until it happened. The day I found out about it that morning, Kathy and I were brainstorming together about, gee, we know it's your job, but maybe we can think of some people that would be good for the committee. Which you did, and that's okay, but we didn't know anything about it. And I just, not that we have to know everything.
Yep.
But that's an important piece of the community. I ran into Eric Mattson at Village Mart several times. He lives right over the line and I live right over the line this way. And, he spoke often about the process, which he felt was excellent. But that's, I want to hear it from you.
No, and I appreciate that. And your president and I had that conversation as well. And again,
Did he get nasty? Did he get loud? Did he scream? I'd like to hear.
I prefer not to answer that question in an open meeting. No. And again, I think that these are things that I'm still learning.
Okay.
This is just year 2 also. And sometimes it's my decision and I'm going to do it my way.
I understand that.
However, in this scenario, there is a part of the charter that it was very difficult from us on an operations standpoint because there is part of this that you're involved in. And that is confirming my decision. So perhaps it would have been more, as Connor pointed out, more advantageous to the whole process if you're in on it on some way, shape, or form before it's on the agenda in front of you to confirm that decision. So, that was a small misstep on my part, and I do apologize. And yes, Connor reamed me out already. But no.
That's why he's president.
Again, I think at this point that kind of constructive criticism I can take and I want. And I can appreciate your opinion as counselors when you're specifically listed in that process for that position. So I hear you on that.
That's it. I appreciate it.
Yep.
I would follow that up though, that even though that was maybe one misstep, I feel like overall we've had a really good working relationship.
100%.
July, and I'm pretty impressed with how everything's gone.
I've told you, I told Ralph, I appreciate how this is working and how it's happening. And yes, and I said it about him when he was there. I'll say the same thing about you. It's been nothing but perfectly collaborative, open and honest conversation, which of course means, especially with Ralph, that you don't agree all the time. Just kidding. No. I mean, we're not of the same mindset 100% of the time. It doesn't happen. But the fact that we're always having the conversations freely and openly is all that anybody really wants, right? Because then you're not fearful of saying anything because the reaction is just going to be genuine and you're going to get the same back. So thank you, Connor, for the first half of the year. And again, like I said, I know we have things that we can do better, but we are doing a lot of things very well. And I'm happy to be here for it. So.
Anyone else have any other comments? Okay, seeing none.
You wore us down, Connor. That's
Thank you, Tom, for the update.
Yep.
In terms of action items for our next meeting, the ones that I have written down, next meeting is March 11th, would be the municipal language hopefully having a more longer town manager report on different departments. That's all I had at the moment. Something.
I remember from the last meeting, we had public comments regarding that, tax.
Oh, yes,
Situation
the-
for veterans.
that'll be coming up at.
Well, the heroes.
We just continued that to.
The March 25th instead of the 11th.
No, it'll be on the 11th.
Yeah, okay.
And to no surprise, Diana has already figured out every possible scenario for you to look at and vote on, and we've already got that. So
And Connor's asked me to send that out to you this week, way in advance of March 11th. Or but not the Friday before.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, you'll have that soon to consider.
Mass general law reading on it is very difficult. Guys choose to go for it.
Oh, it is. I
think it was
was
that,
trying to look through the
I already read
website.
it.
And it was hard because they didn't actually update the particular part of the general laws. You have to
Yes.
act that would amend.
That's what I read. I didn't.
Yes.
It's too.
yeah, it's
Difficult to.
I had to read it.
Sure.
the charter change language Jesse has. So we should probably, I mean, Jesse doesn't take longer than 72 hours to do anything. So I should probably have at least an update and or additions, amendments, interrogations, something. I think there's sort of a time crunch, right?
Right. Once you vote on it, assuming it's March 11, then it's 4 weeks with the AG's office for them to approve it.
Okay.
Then with the June 3rd ballot date, we should have enough time.
Great.
As far as the HERO Act goes, my husband and I are recipients of the funding right now. I mean, I'd love for it to increase, but I can't participate. I just want you to know.
Yeah.
Okay.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, so our next meeting will be March 11th, and if there's no other action items, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Sorry.
And I second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned at 8:12. Thank you.